Alright, so today we're going to be checking out a real lifetime story about this little boy who sent a package to this little girl somewhere in the Philippines. So we're about to check that out.
Hey friends, do you believe that everything we do affects our future, one way or another?
100% believe that.
Complete hundreds of different tasks without even realizing that each of them may have great value to someone. And what may seem like something meaningless for us can completely change a person's entire life. You don't believe me? Then this story will be the best proof that everything in our world happens for a reason. Let me take you back to an ordinary
believe that.
evening of 2015, when a certain girl named Joanna Markin sent a Facebook friend request to a guy from Idaho named Tyrell Wolf. I should mention that Tyrell rarely accepted friend requests, especially from people he didn't know, which is why he deleted Joanna's request without giving it a second thought. You may wonder what the big deal is. He ignored the request and forgot all about it. But as it turned out later, the mysterious stranger was persistent enough to repeat her request. Expectedly, this struck Tyrell as a bit weird. I remember scrolling through the girl's profile. She was 100% unfamiliar to me. Looking at her photo, I noted that the girl was quite pretty. However, I was very curious about the reason she was so eager to be friends with me. So I went ahead and asked her about it, the guy later recalled. Back then, he couldn't have even imagined what this friendship would turn into and how it would change his entire life. The first thing that Tyrell asked was if they knew each other, to which the girl replied that he didn't know.
Yeah, I would ask the
She
same
actually
thing.
knew quite a lot about him. She also added that he had once changed her life. This answer puzzled Tyrell even more.
I bet.
Different kinds of thoughts circled through his head. But then he remembered something that happened 15 years earlier. In the year 2000, being a 7-year-old boy,
15 years earlier, bro. 15 years ago, and he remembered that?
Tyrell took part in the Operation Christmas Child Project. The boy filled an empty school box with some toys, school supplies, and small souvenirs, as well as a handwritten letter and his own photo in cowboy clothes, and sealed the box securely. The next morning, the boy's parents delivered it to the local church, from where it was sent to less fortunate children from other parts of the world,
Oh, wow.
along with hundreds of other boxes from even more caring people.
Look at him.
Coincidentally, the box with the boy's gifts soon ended up in a poor family in the Philippines. That very box, packed by the boy from Idaho back in 2000, would mark the beginning of a beautiful story, which could make for a great movie someday. Years passed. From a little good-natured boy, Wolf grew up into a mature young man with
Look
his
at her.
own
Look at the
views.
little girl.
Of course, he had long forgotten about that package that he had sent so long ago, and he didn't even suspect that there was someone on the other side of the ocean who still remembered his gift. You have probably already guessed that
Look
the
at him.
mysterious stranger named Joanna was the
Is that
girl
little
from
girl?
the Filipino family who had received the little Tyrell's box. He could barely even remember that story since he was so young at the time. But after telling his mother
Oh,
about
wow. Look at her,
he
man.
was shocked. Surprisingly, his mother immediately remembered that gift box. She told me affectionately how I packed that box and how much love there was in my eyes. My mom said that I meant it for a boy like myself. I even included my favorite markers with a note, in which I wrote that I wanted to meet him someday. What else could a 7-year-old boy have written? Tyrell later recalled with a smile. That moment marked the beginning of a long and interesting interaction between these
That's
two people.
crazy, man.
Joanna and Tyrell's lives have changed drastically since they first came in contact. The young man, who used to spend his free time with friends, now spent all his time thinking about the girl, who was so far away.
She is gorgeous. Look at her. Look at them, man. Look at them. They look so gorgeous together, man. Wow. Who would have thought, man, act of kindness would bring a beautiful young lady like that to you, bro? That's what I'm telling you. Gotta be kind to people.
For days on end, and it seemed like they had known each other forever. They talked like that for a whole year. It went very smoothly, as the two of them turned out to have a lot in common. After a year of this virtual relationship, they decided that they wanted more. I couldn't help myself. I desperately wanted to see Joanna in person. I took a job at a construction site, and a couple of months later, I managed to save up enough money to go to Manila, where Joanna lived. It's also worth noting that the trip was tough for Tyrell. First of all, he had never gone so far from
Yeah,
home before.
that's like 16
And
hours
second of all,
flight.
he had no idea if he would be welcome there. However, the anticipation of meeting Joanna gave him confidence and strength. When the plane took off, I breathed a sigh of relief. As I was walking through the halls of the airport, my eyes were looking for Joanna.
Wow.
I had imagined our first meeting plenty of times, but when I saw her, my heart burst into flames. full of new feelings. At that moment, I realized that it would be more than just a friendship, Tyrell added. And he turned out to be completely right. Their meeting was very warm and emotional. The young people left the airport and headed to Joanna's house. Upon arrival, the young man from America was shocked by the living conditions of the girl's family. Like many years ago, they still lived in a very small house, which was far from comfortable. And although it may surprise people from developed countries, it's a rather common thing in the Philippines.
It is.
As for the heroine of our story, Joanna turned out to be very modest and well-mannered, but it was her wide smile and her kind soul that won the young man's heart. For the next 10 days, the young people were inseparable. They visited many beautiful places in the Philippines, and the only thing that was upsetting the girl was that Tyrell could only stay for 10 days. However, even given their limited time together, they still got to know each other very well. And most importantly, they realized
smile on their
they
faces,
never wanted to part again. Joanna told Tyrell that she had kept his gift through the years as something of great value because she never had such things before. And later, pulling out that very box, she showed him the letter from his 7-year-old self, where he wrote that he hoped to meet the recipient of the box one day. When he was about to leave, Tyrell promised that he would come back, but the couple still couldn't find the strength to say goodbye for several hours. Will the young man keep his word? And how would the couple's relationship further develop? The sweethearts exchanged messages daily and often talked on video chat. Despite the huge distance between them, the young people couldn't go a minute without talking to each other. And some few months later, something happened. Something that Joanna could have never expected. Having thought everything through, I bought a plane ticket to the Philippines and headed to my beloved. She didn't know I was coming. I wanted it to be a surprise. And let me just say that it truly was, the man said with a smile. Tyrell approached Joanna's house, and when she saw him, she froze in place for a second and then rushed to hug him. The couple's happiness knew no bounds. When he told me he came for a special reason, I even tensed up a little bit because I didn't realize what he meant. But then he took my hand and walked towards my father. I was so surprised when Tyrell officially asked my father for my hand.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that it was actually happening to me.
He did it the correct way too.
Although Joanna's father was an intelligent and strict man, there was no need for an explanation. He saw everything he needed to know in the couple's shining eyes. Of course, like every parent, he wanted his child to be happy. He only asked Joanna if she was sure that she wanted to live her whole life with Tyrell, to which the girl answered with a confident yes. The wedding ceremony was held at the Wolf's Ranch.
Beautiful they look together, man.
Music and fun. Tyrell was dressed in a traditional Filipino formal shirt, barong Tagalog, while the beautiful Joanna was wearing a simple white dress and a wreath of flowers. Unfortunately, visa problems prevented the bride's parents from attending the wedding. However, the couple decided to have another wedding in the near future, this time in the Philippines. When Tyrell and I said our vows at the altar, I felt that he was my person for life. I have never loved anyone so much. It's been 5 years since their wedding, and today, the couple is still happily married. Tyrell and Joanna love each other more than ever. Now that they have been married for a while, their bond has strengthened, and their relationship is now filled with deeper meaning. They now have a son whom they've surrounded with love and care. After their wedding, Joanna and Tyrell decided to partake in the annual sending of the shoebox gifts. The man admits that he cannot imagine how everything would have turned out if he hadn't taken part in the project, if he hadn't sent this gift, if he had deleted Joanna's second friend request, and finally, if he hadn't met her at all. Everything would have been different. He wouldn't have met the love of his life. Today, Tyrell is convinced that any small act of kindness comes back to you, making your life better. 100 always returns, and that's just
100%.
So friends, did you like the unusual
100%, man. 100. I believe whatever kindness you do in this world now, it comes back full 100% comes back. And that's why I said you gotta be kind to everybody. You never know. One act of kindness will come back. This is a beautiful story. Let me know what you guys thought about that story in the comments down below, man.